We are about to embark on a deep dive into 5 habits that completely overhauled my existence in just 7 days. I want you to set aside your skepticism for a moment. We've all seen the clickbait titles promising a new life in a weekend, but this isn't about a quick fix. This is about a fundamental shift in the way you perceive your reality, rooted in the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy. 1 week, that's 168 hours. I know it sounds like a blip in the timeline of a life, but I promise you, these are not your standard self-help cliches. These are raw, difficult, and honest habits that I personally integrated into my routine. I didn't just read about them, I lived them. I navigated the initial resistance, the mental fog of the early mornings, the physical soreness, and the digital withdrawal. What I found on the other side was a version of myself that was more focused, more resilient, and, for the first time in a long time, truly in control. In this video, I'm going to pull back the curtain on my own journey. I'll share the exact struggles I faced so you know what to expect. We are looking for more than just productivity hacks. We are looking for a way to build an unshakable foundation for the modern man. Whether you're feeling stuck in a rut, overwhelmed by the digital noise, or just hungry for a deeper sense of purpose, these 5 pillars will get you there. Grab your coffee, silence your distractions, and let's dive into the architecture of a better life. Stick around until the final habit, because that is where the true mental breakthrough happens. Habit 1. The pre-dawn vigil, the power of 5 a.m. The first habit that shattered my old reality was waking up early. Let's be brutally honest. I was a professional snooze-button athlete. My bed was a sanctuary where I hid from the responsibilities of the day. Every morning was a chaotic scramble, reacting to emails before my eyes were even fully open, rushing through a shower, and starting my day in a state of high cortisol panic. I was living life on the defensive. Stoicism teaches us that a man's morning sets the tone for his soul. Marcus Aurelius famously argued with himself in his journals, telling himself that he was made to work and be useful, not to stay huddled under the blankets. So I set the alarm for 5 a.m. The first 2 days were a physical battle. I felt groggy, my head felt heavy, and every fiber of my being wanted to crawl back into the warmth. But by the 3rd day, the pre-dawn vigil became a spiritual experience. There is a sacred stillness in the world at 5 a.m. The rest of the world is silent. There are no notifications, no demands, and no noise. In that quiet space, I reclaimed my sovereignty. I used those extra hours not for work, but for preparation. I started with light movement to signal to my nervous system that the day had begun. I practiced negative visualization, thinking of the challenges the day might bring, so I wouldn't be surprised when they arrived. I ate a slow, intentional breakfast. For the first time, I wasn't reacting to my life, I was leading it. The Stoic challenge: don't just wake up early to work, wake up early to be. Start 15 minutes earlier than usual tomorrow, then 30, until you have at least 1 hour of the world's silence to yourself. You will find that you are no longer a victim of the clock. Habit 2. Physical fortitude, the body as a temple of discipline. Habit number 2. Daily physical movement. For years, I viewed exercise as a chore, something I had to do to look a certain way. I'd find any excuse. Work was too stressful, I didn't have the right gear, or I was just too tired. But Stoicism offers a different perspective. The body is the instrument of the mind. If the instrument is rusted and brittle, the mind cannot play a masterpiece. I committed to 20 to 30 minutes of intentional movement every single day. No rest days for the first week. This wasn't about becoming an elite athlete. It was about the habit of showing up. I rotated between jogging, bodyweight strength training, and mobility work. The first few days I was sore. My ego told me I deserved a break, but this is where the Stoic lesson of endurance kicks in. I realized that the resistance I felt wasn't in my muscles, it was in my mind. By pushing through that 20th minute of a run on a cold morning, I was training my brain to ignore the pathos of minor discomfort. I remember one specific run on day 4. It was raining slightly, and the wind was sharp. Normally, I would have stayed inside. But as I ran, I felt an incredible surge of power. It was just me against the elements. I realized that my mood followed my movement. After every session, the anxiety that usually clouded my brain was gone, replaced by a steady, calm energy. Exercise became my primary form of stress management. The Stoic challenge: move your body for 20 minutes every day for the next week. It doesn't matter if it's a brisk walk, a heavy lift, or yoga. Do it especially on the days you don't want to. That is where the mental calluses are formed. Habit 3. The inner dialogue, the art of the evening review. Habit number 3 is journaling, or what the Stoics called the evening review. I used to think journaling was for the overly sensitive or those with too much time on their hands. I didn't understand that journaling is actually a tactical debrief for your life. I committed to 10 minutes of writing every single night. I used a plain, physical notebook, no digital distractions. At first, I just recounted the events of the day, but by the middle of the week, I started asking myself the 3 Stoic questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short of my virtues? What will I do better tomorrow? This habit acted like a mirror. I started seeing my own hypocrisy. I realized I was getting angry at things that didn't matter. I noticed that I was wasting hours on meaningless tasks. By writing these things down, I unloaded them from my brain, allowing me to sleep with a clear conscience. I also added a gratitude log. Every night, I wrote down 3 specific things I was grateful for. This isn't just positive thinking, it is a recalibration of the brain's radar. Instead of looking for what's wrong with the world, I started unconsciously looking for what was right, so I'd have something to write down that night. I wrote about the smell of my morning coffee, a productive conversation with a friend, or even just the fact that I had a warm bed. This simple act of reflection turned my internal monologue from a critic into a coach. The Stoic challenge. Before your head hits the pillow tonight, write 1 page. Don't worry about the grammar. Just be honest with yourself about your day. It is the cheapest and most effective therapy in existence. Habit 4. Rational consumption, the practice of mindful presence. We move now to a habit that is almost entirely extinct in our hyper-connected, fast-paced society. Mindful eating, or what I call rational consumption. In the modern era, we have downgraded the act of eating, once a sacred communal or meditative ritual, into a secondary background task. We treat our bodies like furnaces, shoveling in fuel while our minds are miles away, lost in the blue light of a Netflix show, the stress of an email thread, or the mindless dopamine loop of a social media feed. We are physically present at the table, but mentally we are absent. We are consuming, but we are not experiencing. For 7 days I decided to wage war on this mindless consumption. I made a non-negotiable vow. I would eat every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, in total, absolute silence. No screens, no podcasts, no books, not even background music. Just me, the plate, and the silence. The first 48 hours were a profound revelation of just how fractured my attention span had become. I sat down for that first meal, and within 90 seconds, I felt a physical itch in my palms to reach for my phone. The silence felt heavy, almost suffocating. My brain was screaming for stimulation, for a distraction, for anything to drown out the boredom of simply eating. It was a wake-up call. I realized I wasn't just hungry for food. I was addicted to a constant, frantic stream of information. But as the week progressed, a transformation occurred. Once the static of digital noise was removed, my senses began to recalibrate. I started noticing the intricate architecture of the food itself, the subtle, earthy aromas of a piece of sourdough, the complex sweetness of a ripe pear, the cooling texture of fresh greens. I realized that for years I hadn't truly tasted my life. From a physiological standpoint, the results were immediate. When you eat while distracted, you miss the subtle satiety signals your body sends to your brain. You override the natural shut-off valve because your mind is occupied with a YouTube video instead of your stomach. By slowing down and chewing every bite with intention, I found that I felt satisfied with significantly less food. I wasn't dieting, I was simply listening. For the first time I could hear my body's whispered signal for fullness before it turned into a shout of discomfort. However, the real victory of this habit wasn't physical, it was metaphysical. Mindful eating became my daily form of micro-meditation. It was a forced immersion into the present moment. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that the present is the only time we actually inhabit. The past is a memory, and the future is an uncertainty. By focusing entirely on a simple bowl of oatmeal, observing the steam, the texture, the warmth, I was training my focus muscle to stop drifting into the anxieties of tomorrow or the regrets of yesterday. I began to view food not just as calories, but as a gift from the universe, a culmination of sunlight, water, soil, and human labor. This fostered a profound sense of gratitude that I had previously bypassed in my rush to finish my meal and get back to work. I stopped eating out of stress, boredom, or habit, and started eating out of a deep-seated respect for my own vessel. I realized that how you do anything is how you do everything. If you cannot give your full attention to the meal that sustains your life, how can you expect to give your full attention to your work, your family, or your purpose? The Stoic Challenge. I want you to reclaim your sovereignty over your next meal. Tomorrow, pick one meal, just one. Turn off your phone and put it in a separate room. Sit at a table, not a desk. Eat that meal in total silence. Observe the frantic urge of your mind to check out or find a distraction. Don't judge the urge. Just observe it and return your focus to the bite in front of you. Taste the life that sustains you. You'll find that when you stop rushing through your meal, you stop rushing through your life. Habit 5. The digital fast, reclaiming the sovereignty of attention. Finally, we arrive at the frontier where the most brutal and rewarding battles of my week were fought, the digital fast. If you want to understand the true state of your own freedom, you must look at your relationship with that glass and silicon rectangle in your pocket. We are currently living through a global, silent attention war. On one side are massive corporations employing thousands of the world's most brilliant software engineers, psychologists, and data scientists. Their singular, cold-blooded mission is to keep you hooked, keep you scrolling, and keep you distracted so they can harvest your attention. On the other side is you. I had to face a painful realization. My phone was no longer a tool I used to navigate the world. It was a digital leash that the world used to pull me along. I was a passenger in my own mind, reacting to every buzz, every ping, and every red notification bubble like a lab rat in a Skinner box. To break the spell, I set a draconian limit. 1 hour of total non-work-related screen time per day. No mindless Instagram marathons, no late-night YouTube rabbit holes, and a total blackout of all digital entertainment after 8 p.m. The first 24 hours were a terrifying revelation of my own psychological addiction. I found myself reaching for my phone during every micro moment of silence, standing in line for coffee, waiting for an elevator, or even during the 30 seconds it took for a kettle to boil. Every time there was a lull in stimulation, I felt a physical itch in my phantom limb. I felt a phantom vibration in my thigh, checking for notifications that didn't exist. This is what I call digital anxiety, and it is a plague on the modern man. It is a state of constant low-level fight or flight, where we are perpetually scanning the horizon for the next hit of dopamine or the next spark of social outrage. But as the digital fast progressed into the 4th and 5th days, something profound and beautiful began to happen. My nervous system, which had been fried by years of overstimulation, finally started to heal. The brain is plastic. It adapts to the environment you give it. Because I was no longer feeding it junk food content, my attention span began to expand. I found that I could sit with a physical book for an hour, 2 hours, without my mind wandering to a browser tab. I began to notice the world in high definition again. The specific way the late afternoon light filtered through the trees, the subtle shifts in the expressions of the people I was talking to, and most importantly, the complex nuances of my own internal thoughts. My capacity for deep work didn't just increase, it doubled. By eliminating the constant context switching, jumping from an email to a tweet to a text message, I was able to enter a flow state that I thought I had lost in my 20s. I realized that my phone was a thief of time, stealing minutes that compounded into years of lost potential. The most visceral change, however, was in my biology. Without the suppressive effects of blue light and the cortisol-spiking outrage culture of social media, my sleep transformed. I replaced the glowing screen with a physical book before bed, a Stoic tradition of evening study. For the first time in years, I drifted into a deep restorative sleep and woke up feeling genuinely refreshed and sharp rather than drained and groggy. I looked back at my old habits and realized that 90% of what I had been consuming online was junk information, content that made me feel angry, inadequate, or entertained for a fleeting second, but served zero purpose in my actual life. By limiting my screen time, I ceased to be a passive consumer of other people's lives and started becoming the active creator of my own. I stopped being a spectator and started being the protagonist. The Stoic Challenge. I want you to look your master in the eye right now. Open your phone, go to your screen time or digital well-being settings, and look at your daily average for the last week. Don't look away. If that number is 4, 5, or 6 hours, realize that you are spending a massive percentage of your conscious life staring at a screen. For the next 7 days, I challenge you to cut that average by 50%. If you're at 4 hours, you now have 2. To make it stick, delete the apps that drain you most, the ones you open reflexively without even thinking. You can always reinstall them in a week, but for 7 days, let them go. Reclaim the sovereignty of your attention. Reclaim your mind. You will find that the real world is infinitely more interesting than the digital one you've been trapped in. The transformation is choice. So there you have it, 5 habits, 7 days. This week wasn't easy, but it was the most important week of my year. These habits, waking early, moving daily, journaling, mindful eating, and limiting screens, are the bricks used to build a stoic life. They move you from a state of passive reaction to active intent. If you're sitting there thinking, I could never do all 5, then don't. Start with 1. Pick the one that scares you the most. That's usually the one you need the most. Stoicism is about the pursuit of excellence through small, repeated actions. As the ancient proverb says, a man is what he does daily. I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 habits are you going to commit to for the next 7 days? Drop a comment below with your choice. Let's hold each other accountable. Your feedback, your struggles, and your successes are what make this community a brotherhood of growth. If this video added value to your life, do me a favor. Like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. We have a lot more deep dives into Stoic philosophy and practical self-mastery coming your way. Remember, small changes, compounded over time, lead to an entirely new life. Stay still, stay wise, and as always, stay awesome. I'll see you in the next video.